Hi, this is part 2 of the video that I just made, which was beginning to discuss two varieties, Black Madeira and Figo Preto. And I got distracted and moved around a bit in my greenhouse because I had some ripe figs that were getting ready to devour, and so I wanted to make the best light of that and maybe interject it into the video, and then I got distracted, and next thing you know, my camera just shut off for some reason. I don't know why. So we're going to go to part 2 on this, and I'll try not to let myself stray this time too far from the subject. But this Preto is a beautiful specimen, and it's young, as I said in the part 1. This is only its second full year. And interestingly enough, last year I actually took it out of the pot it was in. It was just a little cutting the year before, at the end of the season, or middle. And so I actually planted it in the ground, in fertile ground, last year. And you'll see it pop up in some of my videos where I mention it. And look how much new growth this thing has. Look at it. I mean, even after I plucked it out of the ground in the fall and put it in my isolation room, my winter isolation room, or it might have spent the winter in my fig cellar, which I featured in other videos. I don't remember. And but I dug it up out of the ground last fall, chopped the roots. It was gentle, but you don't have to be too gentle. They don't really mind having their roots pruned back. And I put it in a pot for the winter, and here it is. And I let it grow in the pot this summer and not put it back in the ground. But look at the growth on this tree. Now, I just showed you my Black Madeira in part 1. So you see how vigorous that has grown, and that's never been in the ground. So I'm not trying to suggest that you always put your trees in the ground, but I am trying to suggest that you can be a little flexible with them and try different techniques like I do. And as long as you know that your ground isn't loaded with nematodes, especially root knot nematodes, which can venture up in the northeast, and they do absolutely venture up in the northeast, although they are more common in the south and in sandy soils, and in the northeast, like where I'm at in New Jersey, we have more loamy soils, more fertile soils, and the root knot nematode doesn't do as well in that environment, but it certainly can be present. So you have to be careful whenever you put any of your figs in the ground. That includes using my grow bag technique too, that I cut holes in the grow bag and put it in the ground for the summer and let the roots stretch out and reach out for nutrients. And there's a lot of advantages to doing that. You have to be careful. You have to know that the ground is free of nematodes. And nematodes do not present as much a problem in the Northeast, in places like Maryland or Virginia or New Jersey or Pennsylvania or Delaware, as much as they do down in the South, like in lower Virginia or North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, Florida, places like that. Of course, California, places wherever it's warm and the ground can tend to be sandy, the soil, you will have a higher presence of nematodes. Nematodes are ravaging. They're devastating to fig trees, devastating. But here's my Figo Preto, and I gambled, and guess what? Because I don't have nematodes, I've not seen any in my soils. And it just grows and grows and grows and grows. And the reason why I'm pointing this out is because a lot of people talk about fig Mosaic Virus and the different Figo Preto or Black Madeira trees being infected with the fig Mosaic Virus and not being able to get good representations of that variety. Well, I don't see it, because I do believe in force feeding them. Remember, I talked a little bit about this in the past video, part 1, on Figo Preto versus Black Madeira, part 1, I talked about how I consider these figs like, I sort of like in a parody with human development in terms of maturation. A baby is a baby, a human baby is a baby, and it gets a formula. It gets a formula to eat, okay? Because it just can't eat adult food, just like a baby puppy can't eat adult dog foods. And so when they're just babies, when they're just little cuttings, first year cuttings, I give them a special little formula. I'm very careful what I feed them. I mean, there are some variations in my formula. And then I consider the second year, well, they would be juveniles in the second year. Sort of like people, but a few years older. And they get a little bit of a different diet, of course, because they're a little bigger. They're not just little babies. They don't have to be on a formula anymore. And then after that, they become adolescents, say in the third year. And that's how I treat them. I treat my figs like adolescents in the third year. Although when I feed them a rich diet like I do, they can perform like adults in pots, small pots. I don't have to have big pots because I really do pack the nutrients into them. I believe in that wholeheartedly. And look how healthy they are as a consequence. But anyhow, in their third year, I consider them to be, say, latent adolescents. Okay, and now they're eating, a pretty reliable food, a strong food, a rich food in nutrients, just like they would as adults. And then I consider a fig tree an adult when it turns its fourth year. In its fourth year, you can expect a fig tree to exhibit all of the qualities that it should exhibit in its adult life. And that's why it's always best to hold back judgment on figs when you're comparing figs, and holding back judgment in terms of your own personal preference in terms of taste and such, because a fig really doesn't taste right in the first year, and the first figs are never really tasty, I have found. I think the second year is a far more reliable technique to use in determining taste or certain characteristics. Third year is better, much better, much better. And fourth year, you have a mature or an adult tree, and it's eating a very rich diet in nutrients. Now, again, try and keep in mind that this Figo Preto is only in its second year, really second adult year, or full season. And last year it spent, as a baby, it spent its time in the soil. And this year, it's in a pot fully, but it's doing so well, it's growing, and it's full of figs. Look at all these figs, and they're all going to get ripe soon, okay? And I wanted to show you the comparison. Look at the leaf formation, look at the pattern, and over here is Black Madeira. It's a grafted Black Madeira. I talked about it a little bit in part 1, but I want you to see it. This is the same age as the Preto, but I did not put this in the soil last year. Do you see the difference in the size? But yet it is rich. It's productive. It's full of fruit. It's very, very, very vigorous, very healthy, because in a pot, again, I force feed it. I feed it certain nutrients. I make sure that it gets plenty of what it needs. I use mostly rainwater whenever it's available. And believe me, this year it has been right there, buddy. Yes, he said, oh, absolutely. He spent many a day and many a night in the rain. But yes, I've had an abundance of water this summer, rainwater, and to no end, and too much. But I feed them that, and I feed them my tea. And again, you can look at some of my videos. People want to see me mix my mixes, and I am not doing any up-potting this season anymore. I'm all finished. I didn't do much this year, and I only took on 2 new varieties. I don't want any new varieties. I'm going to make a video about that too. But if you really want my philosophy about having many or too many varieties, let me direct you to one of my videos, avoiding fig pies in the sky. You might want to watch that. And another video, let's see, a fig in the hand is better than 2 in the bush, part 1. I'm starting to recommend some of my previous videos because I don't want to get too redundant, and I go over some of these principles in detail in some of my other videos, and of course they offer other additional information too. So I'm starting to refer people, you guys out there, to some of my videos that I've already posted to get additional information on certain subjects. I have quite a few videos posted now, and thank you out there for watching. I'm trying to make my contribution to the fig community, and I'm enjoying doing so. I'm enjoying the interaction with the public. I'm having fun, and I'm hoping I'm making some valid contributions. Getting back to the subject now, without meandering too much off of the subject, which I have a tendency to do, haven't you noticed? But they look the same to me in every way, okay? Except I have a feeling, and there's no question in my mind, in my opinion, that they're genetically related. They could even be the same. They are a little bit different, but not much different. And so I guess, you know, and I'm going to wait for these to ripen fruit, which won't be long. You see my Black Madeira is already producing fruits. I don't see any difference that's noteworthy in the two of these, okay? Now, there's two camps. One that Figo Preto is a little different, and one that, it's different because it has a different structure. It grows a little differently. There's more branches on the bottom, or, I mean, the way it's pretty much, I guess, structured. The way it's structured is a little different. The way the branches reach out is a little different than Black Madeira. In this case, and you can look, there's not too much difference. And, that effect can be brought about by a very large number of different types of ways that we feed them, and different ways that we subject them to the environment. If they're in the ground, well, they're not going to be in the ground in my area, but if they're in the ground in a different state, or how you're actually raising the figs and what you're actually feeding the figs, I guess all of that, and how you're pruning them even, could produce different results in their growth pattern, okay, in their scaffolding. But in this case, you don't see a huge difference. They're pretty much the same. So there's two camps. Some say they're different, some say they're not, and I guess I'm being swayed to into the camp where they're not really that different. One thing for sure, okay, and I'll know more when I make another video once they ripen. I'll make a separate short video. But one thing for sure I am positive of, in my opinion, for what it's worth, is that they're so closely related, and I tasted both of these figs before, okay? They're so closely related to one another that, in my opinion, buy Figo Preto. It costs less, and it grows vigorously, and it produces abundantly. I love it. I would, if I had to right now go out and buy, another Black Madeira, I would just get Figo Preto. That's my opinion, because I could get it for less money. It's just as vigorous. I don't have a problem with vigor. I don't have a problem with Mosaic Virus. I'm not having any problem at all. I mean, they're just growing. Okay, so you might want to take a look at my techniques. And I believe wholeheartedly in some of the nutrients that I feed my fig trees. Again, and I'm going to point to another video. Why are my fig trees so productive early and tasty? Part 1. And part 2 is Fig Magic Tea Anyone is part 2. And those two videos, without being redundant and making more, really do, I think, in pretty much detail, they do explain the techniques that I use for feeding my figs. So, what is the verdict on Figo Preto versus Black Madeira? My opinion, okay, my opinion. Buy Figo Preto, because you're going to be very happy with Figo Preto. Here it is. Look at it. It's beautiful. Look at it. Figo Preto. It's beautiful. It tastes the same. It's a beautiful, vigorous fig tree. I love it in every way. It's it's so identical or so close to Black Madeira that it doesn't make any difference. No noteworthy difference, in my opinion. And so, both of them are wonderful choices. They probably are the same. They're very closely genetically related, I'm sure of that. And we'll finish up with that subject. And part 3 will be testing the ripened fruit. And I'll make a short video, I promise, on that subject. And with that, thank you very much. Good day.